San Antonio has a long history of filmmaking, dating all the way back to the first ever Oscar for Best Picture. We've had our share of blockbusters like Wings, that first ever Best Picture winner, and John Wayne's epic, The Alamo. Steve McQueen and Ally McGraw made their escape from Sunset Station in The Getaway, and Pee-wee's Big Adventure revolved around the basement of the Alamo. But what about the future? Can filmmakers still make films in San Antonio? What does Bexar County's media landscape look like? Producer, historian, and San Antonio native Jose Banuelos is here to give us a preview of San Antonio's coming attractions. Welcome to Bearcast. I'm Randy Langford, and this is Bearcast, a weekly interview with business, political, education, and nonprofit leaders. We're examining the relationship between all four and how each one benefits from the success of the other three. Jose Banuelos has been in front of or behind the camera for the past 20 years. He got his start in the radio, television, film program at Brackenridge High School and then continued his education at UTSA as a communication major. He worked as an actor in numerous South Texas productions before moving behind the camera in 2007. In addition to filmmaking, he's also a graphic designer and promotions producer. He spoke on San Antonio's film history at TEDx San Antonio in 2018 and is currently the chairman of the San Antonio Film Institute. Jose, thanks for joining me.
Randy, it's great to be here. I'm really excited to be a part of the podcast.
Well, I'm glad to have you. So how cool was it to give a TED Talk?
Man, it was a lot more work than I thought it would be, but I really enjoyed the experience from beginning to end. It was a lot of hard work, and I think I had a really compelling story to tell.
You did.
That aligned with my vision of what I want to do with myself and my life. So I think we need to get started at the beginning.
Well, I like what you have in mind for San Antonio. I like that vision you have for San Antonio, that we can be a filmmaking town.
I mean, yeah, that's for me, it's one thing to tell your own story. It's another to create the space for everybody else to do the work that they want to do. I realized later on in life that film was a team sport, and you need to make sure everybody's playing on with the same equipment, playing by the same rules, and and that's kind of the direction we wanted to go with that. The history that San Antonio has in the film industry is a really rich one and a really diverse one, and it ranges everywhere from independent films to big studio productions, just kind of like the early days.
Right.
Can we get back to there? Sure. It's going to take a lot of time and a lot of money, but that doesn't mean we can't start.
Right. Yeah, you got to start somewhere. Tomorrow
Exactly.
You'll wish you had started today.
Exactly. That was me 10 years ago. Grateful to be in the position I am now, and in the place in life where I can finally start having those ideas again and actually be able to put them in motion.
Right. Right. So let's go back a little bit when you were in school, back in the dark ages when we were in school. So you were a radio, television, film program at BRAC. So you knew back in high school that this was the path you wanted to go down. Was there a particular film or person who inspired you that made you want to be a filmmaker?
Well, definitely my two main instructors at Brackenridge, Beva Sanchez Padilla. She's in New Mexico now, involved with their film community, and Robert Blackard, who's still, as far as I know, he's still at Brackenridge. They basically gave me all the tools I needed. Beva really came from a documentary background, so that really kind of molded the way I shoot and the way I see things, at least from that storytelling point of view. And Blackard just kind of, helped me kind of direct my work ethic when it comes to shooting things, logging things, and crafting that vision as I'm doing it. Being able to put together the pieces that I was able to. So that's as far as learning the mechanics of filmmaking. Those two guys are great, and they were very instrumental. They will always be the main influences for me as far as learning the craft of filmmaking. Anything after that was how not to do filmmaking.
You do it wrong until you do it right. That's just the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And before that, I guess the inspiration started in 7th grade. I got the bug. That was 94, 95. Of course, anybody that's a film historian knows that was a big, big year for filmmaking.
Right.
But I want to go back. I want to say it was 1990 best foreign film. It was called Cinema Paradiso. I was a part of the multilingual program at Tafoya Middle School. So our teacher sat us down and showed us this picture. And of course, being an Academy Award-winning film in Spanish, it was very important that we listened and learned and see if we could follow the story. And of course, if you know the movie, it follows the story of a young boy who becomes this big studio producer. So it resonated with me because it was about a kid that didn't grow up very lavishly and kind of like, in a small Spanish town with not a lot of opportunities, and he made himself into this person, the studio exec, and that just resonated with me. For obviously you grew up on the west side of San Antonio, you do looking back, it's like, wow, I was really poor. But
you don't know it. You don't know it when it's happening. You don't realize it until later.
no, of course not until you're older and you're like, wow, it's like, wow, I had it really rough back then, but I had a good time doing it. So that film was obviously the first one that kind of set some bells off for me. But that summer Forrest Gump came out,
Right.
and that was probably the first movie for me that did it. Just the way they were able to craft a story, a life story, in 2.5 hours or however long it was, really spoke to me, and then just kind of lit the fuse to want to pursue filmmaking and storytelling in that form.
That's great. That's great. So the message here is anybody can do this. It's not a matter of where you came from and your circumstances. If you've got the drive and you've got the passion, you can make it happen.
Sure, and I'll give my father some credit. He had a vision for me. He always said, my son's going to be on TV. Oh. He's just got the gift. He's got the talent for it, and if that's what he wants to do, all the luck. Obviously, he wasn't around to see me take the long route. Not that I'm on camera, but that I've become such an expert in this field, and just I've stuck with it for as long as I have. I mean,
right.
I was on the verge of getting ready to leave town, and then life happened and started a family, and couldn't be happier the way it worked out. I joke now that I work in television, this is the job I wanted out of college. It just took me 20 years to get.
Yeah, that overnight success that takes 20 years, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, maybe even more in some cases. But it's one of those where I came in and I was able to just put my talent to good use, and I've had very few days where I felt they were wasted.
Good.
And you can't ask for anything more as a creative professional. No. So I'm in a good spot right now, and that just kind of puts me in the space to create more.
Absolutely.
And having the friends that I do, yourself included, Randy.
Well, thank you.
You just want to contribute to the growth of that, at least for the young people that want to pursue it as a profession.
Absolutely. Yeah, let them know that there is that opportunity, that it's not just a pipe dream. You can do it.
It may take some time, but you can, if you stick to it, you'll definitely be able to get it.
That's right. In your TED Talk, you go through San Antonio's film history, and at the end, you give this sort of an uplifting, aspirational message that, what was it? Imagine the story we could be telling in 100 years from now, and imagine how many Oscars we could win in that time. What's it going to take for San Antonio to do that? How do you bring that dream to life?
Lots and lots of money. That's just one of the key components there. But I think there needs to be a quality of storytelling that needs to happen. And the only way to do that is just to do it. Just get it put together, throw it out there. I think what you guys are doing is great, at least in the regard of getting cameras in kids' hands and going out in the world to be able to tell these stories happening in their own backyards. I think that's a very critical component to the process. Most people, at least for me, growing up, I grew up under this illusion that you can be a one-man band like Robert Rodriguez. You can do it all yourself, but you quickly find out you're like, it's going to take more than one person to get this done. Right. So at least in that regard, I had that to an extent at school, and I think for me, as I was progressing, was finding those individuals that I could work with, that I had great relationships with, that had the same vision, just a different skill set that could make things happen. And I think that needs to happen on a wider scale. I think most people need to get kind of dispel this I can do it all myself mentality, because
and better to learn that
look
in
at
high
Endgame.
school
You had a set of brothers
later.
directing the biggest picture in history. It took 2 directors to get that film
Yeah.
made.
Yeah.
In 3 years. So it's one of those things where, yeah, it's great. You can make a $7,000 movie. I mean, $7,000 is luxury for me. Heck, if I had $7,000, I'd make Citizen Kane.
Right.
But it's just one of those. You got to take every opportunity, take advantage of it, and just any chance you can get behind a camera, or you can get a piece of paper and a pen and write a story. As long as you know the people that can make it happen,
Right.
that's the start. As
Yeah.
long as you keep cranking out the work, keep building accolades. One example I love to talk about is Cedric Smith. I mean, he is, I think he's like the modern equivalent to the after school specials, just with a dose of reality, and he's all across the country, showing these films that he shoots here in San Antonio with his actors troupe. It's kind of a throwback to those old days where there'd be a troupe of actors traveling from town to town, and they tell their story and then they leave on to the next town. I think
you got to find your tribe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You just got to find a tribe. And I mean, San Antonio's a big enough city, and there's so many programs. It's hard not to.
Right.
It's just about mindset and the passion. Yeah, that's the big thing.
You can find an outlet. You can find a tribe here in San Antonio. You also talked, and that's an interesting point. You talked in your TED Talk about how technology has become more accessible. And $7,000, like you say, you can make a film for $7,000. When I talk to adults about students making marketing videos for nonprofit organizations, they always come back with, "Man, I wish they'd have had that when I was in high school." Well, yeah, me too. But it just wasn't feasible back in the day. Even 10 years ago, the equipment and the software were just out of a teenager's reach. I sometimes wonder how many potential filmmakers or designers had the talent and the skill and the willpower to be a filmmaker, but just never had the opportunity. That bothers me.
Yeah, and for me, it's for me, I had access to the equipment. I had the opportunity to do those things. I just didn't have the personality to go talk to people. Hard to believe. I cannot do one-on-one interactions. I can talk to masses. I can talk to crowds. In fact, my bachelor's degree is in speech from UTSA. So the TED Talk was just a walk in the park for me. Obviously, we have some mutual interests, so it's very easy for us to talk. But if you put me in a room with somebody with money, and I'm going to freeze up. That's just not my skill set. Trust me, I know. I did car sales for 9 months, the worst 9 months of my life.
Oh, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine going down that road.
So for a lot of folks, it's that that's going to be the wave of the future. Is kids need to be able to talk to these decision makers. Right. With the opportunity you guys are providing, I think that's priceless. To be able to talk to somebody at an executive level.
Right. Yeah, that's some of the feedback I've gotten from some of the teachers in the festival. Is it's an opportunity for their kids to be put in that position. That it's a chance for them to go to what they see as authority figures, adults, and pitch their idea and put out their plan and let it take those arrows, take the shots. And if you can't stand up
that kind of
scrutiny, you're gonna have a hard time.
Yeah, at that age, that experience is absolutely priceless because it doesn't get more real world than that. Right. Nonprofits are business. Even though the keyword nonprofit's a big throwaway, it's still a business. It does require a certain level to run those operations, and to put a kid of that age in that environment is priceless.
Right.
It builds confidence. It you go into college and you're like, hey, I talked to the Area Foundation. I made a great, I've talked to this, I was watching that interview the other day, the $1 billion asset company, and, they like my ideas. So why shouldn't Joe Blow trucking company not like my ideas or pay me money, or XYZ law firm like my ideas? And why can't I get in on that? So yeah, I think it's an invaluable opportunity that you guys provide at Bearfest. It's one I definitely would have loved to have jumped on. However, I did have my experiences over the years with decision makers, and that confidence was slowly built over the course of 20 years. But I think right now, for me at least, I'm in that space where, yeah, I can have those conversations with those decision makers. But would I have loved to have had that 20 years ago? Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Be a whole different conversation we're having today.
Tell me about the San Antonio Film Institute. You're the executive director. What is that? What does it do? How did it come to be?
Well, it started back in 2007. There was a group of filmmakers and film fanatics that saw a gap in programming locally for local films. Back in the 90s, late 90s, there was a lot of, or early, around the turn of the century, like to say, there's a lot of local film programming, government-backed film programs, and opportunities for filmmakers to create content. Now, all that went away kind of quickly right around 2005, 2006. So this group that was very active in those programs saw an opportunity to create something, another local option that was strictly local for San Antonio filmmakers. And I got involved with them when they started their summer remake challenge in 2009, and then 2010 they reached out to me. The founders, had a change of life plans and wanted to focus on traveling the world and finding their dream home and doing that thing. So obviously it would take them out of San Antonio. So it would be a little hypocritical to run the San Antonio centric operation from out of town. So, they reached out to me, and they pressed pretty hard for about 6 months. I finally gave in and said, you know what, here's a great opportunity to connect with the community and be a part of that big picture. We have taken a break. Are we going live? Oh, no, I'm not on camera. I'm on the phone. Sorry. I'll restart that again. I didn't know whether you were shooting that way. No. I'm shooting this way. Thanks, John. So yeah, in 2010, they reached out to me and they pressed pretty hard, and I finally gave in and said, yeah, I'll take over the Institute. I think it'd be a great opportunity to create that space to create for filmmakers. And, the key programming was the San Antonio Local Film Festival, or the SAL Film Festival, and a summer remake challenge.
Right.
That's how I got involved in 2009 by doing a 10-minute remake of Fight Club. Anybody who's watched Fight Club knows it's a really long movie, so to make it a 10-minute short was a feat in and of itself, even though the first cut was 20 minutes.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, and it was a great opportunity for me and a friend of mine to work together. One of my friends from San Antonio College to work together and just kind of learn the hard way and feel things out on our own and create those relationships in the community of like, hey, we're filmmakers. We'd like to use your bar, or hey, we'd like to use a restaurant, or hey, is it okay to shoot in this alleyway? Do we need a permit? Kind of reintroduce ourselves to decision makers on the city level. And that's one of the great things about the local film commission is they're really workable with local filmmakers. They take care of you. They make sure you have the information you need to go out and shoot with very little hassle as possible. So yeah, we got this remake done. They recruited me, and I did it for 3 years, and then that's when about the time my first child was born, and we just kind of took a hiatus. And every year I get phone calls, hey, are we doing the summer remake challenge again? Hey, I got a great idea. I was like, all I could tell everybody is just, you know what, go shoot it. When the time comes, it'll be ready. You're not gonna have to rush to produce it. We can put a show together a lot quicker than the standard 3 months of get a team together, write, shoot, edit your piece, and then plug it into the programming. If some of those folks have stuff produced, that would make my job a whole lot easier. But I think my focus from here on, I think there's been an explosion of local programming that focuses on local filmmakers. So at least from a strategy standpoint, we're going to back off from that film festival. However, we do want to focus on giving money back to the local filmmakers. So it'd be in our interest to fundraise and create some funds and create some capital to give prizes away to local filmmakers at these film festivals and serve as a sponsor in that regard. But the big picture for us is to raise funds to actually produce a feature-length film. And obviously it won't happen overnight. So we'd be happy producing a quality 30-minute short or quality 10-minute short that costs, $10,000, $25,000 to produce. And that's with paying everybody and bringing interns on and
Getting paid
and
is
actually
always good.
have money for submission fees and travel, and those are things most people don't think about when they
Right.
make a film, if they want to market it properly. Most people make a film, show it to their friends, and it sits on the shelf forever. It goes on YouTube.
Yeah.
But there's the filmmaker that makes plans to travel with this film, see the country, go connect with other filmmakers, go meet producers, go meet distributors. There's that side of the business that most people don't think about, and that's kind of what we want to focus on, is build those relationships across the country, and deliver content that is worthy of making those connections.
Right.
So that's going to be the focus from here on out. And obviously, with organizations like yours, Randy, I think it's a great way. I know for me, one of my next level plans for Sal was to bring in a student filmmaker component, but I'm not gonna lie, man, it was hurting cats for one person. So
Oh yeah. Oh
I don't
yeah.
know. So the fact you're able to do it the way you are is miraculous and wonderful. And I knew I had to be associated with you guys, because of the sheer volume of content you guys are able to produce in a short amount of time, which I think is great. I think that shows the community that and deserves some money, some backing, and some attention. So,
Well,
we'd like to kind of be the spokespersons for that,
well, thanks. I appreciate
at
that.
least on the local level.
I'm glad to have you involved with the festival. You were a big part of it, starting with last year when you were on our Business of Creativity panel, the professional development panel that we put together with 6 or 7 people who are actually working in the media to give kids real world life experience stories about, you want to be a filmmaker? That's great. You're going to need to know how to conduct business. You're going to need to know how to do billing and how to schedule your time and how to have those meetings with executives. What did it take? What do you think the kids took away from that? And what did you take away from that? What's the next generation of filmmakers going to look like?
Well, they're going to realize, and at least I hope what they got from the panel was that, people will only take you as seriously as you take yourself and you take your work. Because if you walk around, I'm a student filmmaker, I want to make videos, and okay, cool. Here's $25. You shoot my YouTube video. It's one of those like, well, it doesn't necessarily cost $25 to produce.
Right.
So if anything, it gave them a sense of the value they need to create, at least in the next step of their educational journey. I know a lot of them were seniors, junior seniors. So at least put them in that frame of thought where, okay, this is what I need to do to be taken seriously as a filmmaker, as a creative professional, because it just wasn't filmmaking. I myself have a very creative background, from graphic design to fine arts to, obviously the video, but, in one way or another, photography, one way or another, I've always been creative, or I've managed to stay employed in a creative manner. And the fact for me is just to be able to create my own value, so I can demand that price tag when people do come asking, and they won't fight me on it. Because, you go out and you're like, hey, it's, I'll go out and shoot this thing for $100. Shoot, emphasis on the word shoot, because they come back and, like, I thought you were going to edit this together. I was like, that's editing. You paid me to shoot.
Right.
Be able to create those distinctions and those skill sets. It's like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm going to deliver. We can talk about all that other stuff, but that's obviously more.
Right.
And I think creating that sense of empowerment for a future creative professional, it's like going back to, it's just priceless. It's information I wish I had, 20 some years ago.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I thank you for taking the time to talk with me. I know you've been holding your phone at arm's length for like 20 minutes now, so that's got to be getting old.
You should see the camera I work with on a daily basis. So it's this is light work for me.
It's easy.
So yeah, no, my pleasure to be on, Randy. Thanks for having me on, and look forward to another great year of Bearfest. I guess registration is now open.
We're cooking right along, and I'm going to call on you again to be on.
Sign up.
Thanks. Take care.
I'd love to do it. Wouldn't miss it.
Thanks.
Have a great weekend, Randy.
Talk soon.
Bye, everyone.